Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Matt Horn
Is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Look who it is. The stranger that came out of nowhere and now has everyone talking. Some people want you to be a savior, a shining beacon of hope. Those people clearly haven't met you yet.
Hey Matt, it's Mara Junot. I'm a little voice actor. You may know me from a tiny little game called The Outer Worlds. I play a little lady called Nyoka, and I would love to hear from you if you would stop doing whatever the heck you're doing right now.
So on the line we have Mara Junot talking to us. From where are you talking to us from, Mara?
Lovely Los Angeles.
Oh, good. What's the weather like?
Lovely as always. I think it's about 70 today and sunny, and yeah, one of the perks of living here.
So obviously the reason why we've got you here is because of a certain little game called The Outer Worlds.
Yes.
Which has just recently been released.
Yes.
Which is fine. Fantastic. I suppose the first question I do have for you is, what was production of the game like for you?
It was wonderful working on the project. I play Nyoka, and we worked on her character for quite a while. As you know, she's one of, I believe, 6 companions in the game. And as typical in the voiceover world, we tend to record everything in isolation. So it was just me and the director and one of the writers, and several weeks of talking in a padded room. It's a lot of fun because Nyoka is quite an extraordinary character. She's got a lot of spunky personality and a bit of a drinking problem, as it were.
Obviously, it's an RPG. You've done other RPGs such as World of Warcraft.
Yes, I am Illyria Windrunner in World of Warcraft, Sylvanas' good sister. I like to think I'm the better sister, but, you know, I'm a little biased. But, yeah. Yeah, I've done a few roles in different RPG games. I'm in Star Trek Online. I play some characters like Jaula. She is one of the Klingon leaders, and yeah.
How would you say this game's different to ones that you've done before? Was there a lot more dialogue in this one? I've heard that there was.
What I loved about The Outer Worlds is the world itself is just, number one, it's so beautiful, and it kind of has this sort of hybrid of this sort of kind of post-apocalyptic feel, but there's also this retro feel to it, and it's kind of this kitsch sort of feel that I just think is amazing. And the companions in the game are really well fleshed out. Yeah, this was definitely a character where I did a lot more sessions than usual. She just had a lot more dialogue, a lot more backstory, just a lot more personality. You got the opportunity to kind of really get to know each of the companions' personalities a lot better, I feel, than you probably get to do in other games. At least that's been my experience so far.
I'm sort of seeing, not the end of RPGs, that's a bit too far. I'm sort of seeing the end of RPGs within terms of third-person view, if that makes sense. You always have the camera behind the character, or you're walking to a location, etc.
Right.
And obviously with these open world games like obviously The Outer Worlds, which, by the way, we should mention, has been nominated for Game of the Year.
Whoa! I
Yeah.
didn't even know that.
Did you not? No?
No, that's news to me, but that's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been nominated for Game of the Year. But with like games like this, obviously it's up against games like Death Stranding, which is another sort of open world game.
Right.
You sort of think with the developers, are they going to sort of now take a step back and think, well, we could do this and continue doing this because obviously it works, we know it works. Could we also not put it as a VR headset kind of game, so you walk around these massive, huge open world games?
Right. I mean, there does definitely seem to be a trend with a lot of games going the virtual reality route, but I was just remarking the other day how I'm shocked at how the new generation of gamers are playing games that to me visually are kind of going backwards, like Minecraft. I mean, I was playing games that kind of look like that when I was, playing Atari and Atari 2600 and things like that. So I think, it's kind of hard to predict where the trends are going. I definitely see more demand for richer characters with better backstories. A lot of the NPCs are just getting a lot more detailed now. That gives me a lot of hope that people still care about the storylines and the acting and things like that. Because sometimes, especially if you're just looking like on YouTube and watching people play, it's a bunch of metal music and everybody talking over the voices, and it's kind of like you wonder, do people even care what the actors are doing sometimes? But at the same time, I'm seeing a lot of demand from the fans that they want more, development in the lore and what the NPCs and NPCs are doing. So I think it's kind of hard to predict the trends, but virtual reality is definitely something that's on the table. That's becoming a big expansion in that genre as well.
I think it's a fad. And the reason why I think it's a fad is that there is, well, actually quite literally, even this year, there's been about 2 or 3 remakes or reboots. Baldur's Gate's a great example of this.
Yeah.
They're reselling the old 90s RPGs.
Right.
So it's an interesting, if not, what are they doing? Question.
Yeah, I think the gaming industry is just still trying to find its way and make sure that, they stay relevant to the demands and the needs of what the gamers want. And who knows, it could be fad or could not. But I think as long as there's a demand for good storytelling, at least as actors, we're in pretty good shape.
Are there any sort of funny anecdotes you can share about the production of the game?
Nayoka was just such a trip to play because, of course, she's a functioning alcoholic, which I have never experienced for myself. I remember when I first auditioned for the role, I was told that she was an alcoholic and this and that, so I played her way sloppier than I probably should have. So luckily, the casting director, Amanda Wyatt, love you to pieces. She advocated for me, and she was like, no, I think we can pull this back. And so, I think I probably came pretty close from losing out on even playing her because I was trying to figure out just how drunk to make her.
I'm not saying anything. Oh dear. So let's talk a bit about you, Mara, you yourself.
Sure.
What made you want to get into acting in the first place?
I always wanted to be an actress. I love the human condition. I've always been obsessed with what makes people tick. I remember deciding really early on, I was probably about 8 years old, that I either wanted to be a psychiatrist or an actress. And I realized that I'm probably a bit too sensitive to handle being a psychiatrist. I would take all that home with me. So I thought, being an actress, that's going to be where it is. But number one, at the time, the only way you could really be an actress was to move to New York or LA. And I didn't ever see that happening. And this is years ago when, both areas were kind of a lot more sketchy and intimidating than they are now. I just didn't see myself as the type of person that was going to pick up my life and move to one of these big cities to be a starving artist. And also, as time started changing, I'm pretty introverted despite my look, and I can be pretty boisterous and extroverted when I need to be, but I'm a pretty introverted person, and I kind of like my me time and my privacy and this and that. And we live in an age now where everybody's kind of got access to you 24/7, through social media, through their phones, whatever. And I just kind of like the idea of somehow working a little bit more anonymously. And it never really occurred to me that voiceover was an option until it kind of happened by accident. I spent about almost 8 years in radio. And at that point, I thought that was just the best thing you could possibly do in the world. I had literally hated every corporate job I had before I found radio. And I just thought I was going to be one of these serial job hoppers who could never find what I want. I was constantly trying to find myself. And so I didn't really know what options I had. And then I found radio and I was like, oh, this is great. I get to play music, talk for a living, and make friends. Like, this is nuts. And so I just thought that was, the bee's knees and as good as it gets. And I, spent several years in radio, like I said, almost 8 years. And by the time I left, I was working at a cluster of radio stations 4 radio stations to be exact, and I was working on 3 out of the 4. I was doing a morning shift as a classic rock radio DJ, then switching right over and walking across the street to the country radio station that I first got started on, doing middays. And then after that shift, I would go to the next station and do an afternoon adult contemporary DJ, and it was great. I made a lot of friends. I learned a lot about, just how to get comfortable behind a microphone and, make the audience my friend. But, I never wanted to be in management. And I just kind of, after 3 stations at a time, had kind of grown as far as I knew I could grow. And so I kind of got lost for a while and didn't really know what to do next. But I knew it was time to move on. And, I was considering going back to college. I was like, well, maybe I'll get a degree in media broadcasting or something, but I still didn't know exactly what to do. And then I thought about voiceover and voice acting, and then I started doing some research online about voiceover. And, at the time, I'm living in a very small town in South Louisiana. There were no voiceover agents in the area. There's still pretty limited voiceover agencies in that area. I was outside of New Orleans, and while New Orleans is a huge on-camera and film industry hub, there's not really a lot of action going on in terms of voiceover work. So I really kind of had to start from scratch, kind of studied the greats from afar, looking at the top agencies, seeing who was on their roster, seeing who are kind of the recognized names in the industry, and just studying. I love people. I love studying people. And so I went to work at just trying to figure out, well, what makes a good voiceover actor, and what, do you need to have on a demo, and what sort of versatility do you need? And where is my place as a minority in this industry, and so many different things. And I just experimented and hustled my happy ass off. And, I started out working, just researching, studying, marketing, whatever I had to do, anywhere from 14 to sometimes 18 hours a day. I just immersed myself as much as I could in the industry, and quickly, I won't say quickly, the first year was challenging. A lot of bumps and learning the ins and outs of running your own studio. And because times have changed with technology, the advantages you can kind of learn from anywhere, which was great for somebody like me who didn't want to pick up right away and abandon everything for the big city. But at the same time, there's a lot more pressure now, whereas it used to be, you move to one of these big cities and then you get an agent, somebody to represent you, you get a demo, and then, your agent kind of handles it from there. When you're doing it on your own, you really kind of have to wear so many hats. I mean, I am my own secretary, my own marketer, my own director, my own editor, my own, social media person. I have to do everything, and I'm the talent itself. And to this day, a lot of that hasn't changed. I have some wonderful agents now. It's a wonderful representation. But a lot of the reason I do is because I had to get my feet wet into so many different departments. And fortunately, being in radio helped with a lot of that. It helped me to learn how to edit my own audio and learn how to, talk into a microphone and learn how to read quickly and read, naturally and stuff. So even though being an ex-radio DJ in the world of voice acting can sometimes be a kiss of death, a lot of people think, well, you're going to have a radio sound and be too announcery and whatever. There's a whole set of challenges that come with having a radio background. But for me, it was really a great way to get my foot in the door, getting to act and do it semi-anonymously. I mean, I didn't realize that I would wind up in some of these amazing, huge projects that have gotten so much attention. So I'm getting on camera more and more these days. But that's kind of how it all came about. Kind of everything fell into place. I just found that, ironically, all of the skills that I had developed over the years of doing jobs I hated, like, learning to type 100 words a minute and learning to work the microphone in radio or whatever, all of those things when I had to run my entire voiceover business on my own kind of all fell into place. And, I have a really sharp ear. I have near perfect pitch, not quite perfect pitch, but I'm really good at mimicking and doing voice impressions and things like that. So all of those skills kind of, when the time was ready, kind of culminated. And I was able to start making a career in the world of voice acting instead of on camera.
I would say our careers are not slightly dissimilar. I mean, you've had better success than I have, I think. But not too dissimilar. Not too dissimilar at all.
There's a lot that they have in common, and I think a lot of people don't realize that. People tend to have the idea that, well, if you come from radio, you just learned how to have a really polished, nice announcer voice and do interviews and play music. And to a degree, that's true. And there are, to be fair, there are some radio personalities, and that's the extent of their quote-unquote acting skills. But I also feel like, a lot of that background can really be helpful. Like I said, learning to edit your own audio and a variety of different aspects that come with the job, and interviewing and things like that can actually be helpful on the path to taking it the next step further to the acting realm. Because at the end of the day, yes, it is voice acting. It's not just announcing or just having a nice voice.
And then obviously I look at your IMDb. Far Cry 5, that's last year, I think, isn't it? That's not far.
Yes. It's been a blur, but yes, I believe it was last year.
One of my ex-interviewees was the main lead. Yeah, so Greg Brick.
Ex-interviewees.
Greg Brick did pretty well out of Far Cry 5. When it's like mocap and voiceover, it's such a small community. You must run into each other quite a bit.
We do. I mean, there's still quite a few legends I have yet to meet who are on my bucket list and stuff. But no, it is definitely a smaller community, especially compared to traditional on-camera actors. And it's a very generous community as well. A lot of people don't know that about voiceover, and it's kind of weird because we are really, really generous with each other in this industry. And I couldn't tell you what the difference is between being on camera and not, but for whatever reason, I mean, it's just not uncommon for voice actors to recommend each other for projects that they're like, you know what, I'm not the best choice for this, but I've got two buddies who are, and easily, give a client that information. Whereas, I've heard on-camera actors will just like fight you to the death, and they hold everything close to the vest, and they don't want to share anything. It's just super competitive. And voiceover, the community really is a big family. If people are having a hard time, people reach out with support, money, whatever is needed. And so it's kind of just being a part of a really cool family of awesome creative people. I'm meeting more and more every day.
What was it like working on Far Cry 5?
Far Cry 5 was awesome. It was cool because I played a couple of characters. I played, of course, Sherry Woodhouse, and I also played, oh my goodness, I'm trying to remember the name of it, but I was basically someone who was captured. And during the session, the way we had the lines arranged, a lot of times, I'm playing Sherry kind of like after like an escape where she's more confident and this and that. And then other times I'm playing the character where she's like trapped and terrified and captured. So I would deliver a line like this, I'm really confident. And the next line, I have to be really scared and sad. And then back to this. It was really schizophrenic, but it was a lot of fun. But it definitely kept me on my toes, acting chops wise. Yeah.
And of course, you got Mortal Kombat 11.
Oh my goodness, yes, Miss Sindel. I think I've gotten more attention from that game so far than anything previously. Yeah, it's been wild, the reaction to that. I didn't realize that Mortal Kombat, I think, is one of the oldest running video game franchises, period. So it's really an honor to get to play a role as legendary as Queen Sindel. I didn't realize the following that she had, but she has quite the fan base who appreciate the Scream Queen. So I'm hoping to honor that.
I mean, the funny thing is I'm running into a lot of you guys with Mortal Kombat 11. It's quite odd because obviously I didn't cover Mortal Kombat 11 when it came out, but
yeah.
Obviously doing the projects at the end of the year, it then transpires that most of you are actually in it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So obviously I do have to touch on it because obviously it's a massive thing. And then we come to the other bit of your IMDb, which I looked at and I thought, oh God, here we go again. Fortnite.
Oh, yes. Are you a player?
As a journalist, it fascinates me. There's two things that fascinate me with regards to Fortnite. The first thing is the amount of parents who either find their kids addicted to it or they find that their credit card bills have somehow amassed £3,000 or dollars, depending on where you are, in terms of these modifications that you can do.
Right.
I mean, you've got like skins such as John Wick that you can have. That's my first beef with it. My second beef, and this is the other beef I do have with it, is the clever marketing that they did at the end of the game, it's just simply a black hole. It was a black hole screen for 2 days. You had people. I'm not even joking about this. You can look on YouTube afterwards. You had literally people doing streams of a black hole.
You gotta say though, it's different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when The Sopranos ended with their season finale and everything going to black, and people were in an uproar. But it leaves things open to interpretation.
Well, people were also a bit sort of angry because they thought if the game's ended, if this is the end of it, they didn't know anything about this new game that was coming out. If this is the end, and I've spent $2,000 on this modification, which I now can't get back because obviously the server imploded on itself and turned into this black hole. This went on for 2 days. And the weirdest thing, even not being a player, I was interested in this black hole. I mean, I literally went every... No, I'm not even joking. I literally went every 5 hours or so and had a look. And it was just the same black hole and sort of the same ambient music. And you've just got people watching this black hole and thinking, what are you doing?
Well, it sounds like it definitely captured your attention at the very least. Somebody was doing something right.
I don't know how it started or came about, but then they started to work out that numbers were coming from the black hole. And they did actually come up with something pretty concrete, which was basically that the next chapter was coming.
That's cool.
But I've not joined them. I've not joined the legions of Fortnite fans. Well, I'm going to give you a 1-minute plug, Mara. It's a 1-minute plug to plug The Outer Worlds.
Hey guys, be sure to check out The Outer Worlds from Obsidian, where you can catch me as Nyoka, the fun, adventurous, and sometimes slightly inebriated hunter who will rock your world.
Well, Mara, it's been a pleasure interviewing you.
Likewise, Matt. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you are off to the start of a fantastic weekend.
We'll have to get you back.
Absolutely. Anytime. Holler at me.
Bye-bye, Mara.
Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.